All right. On another issue, what is the gender workplace hours gap? The agency reports a workplace gender pay gap comparing male full-time employees and female full-time employees, but male full-time employees work longer hours on average than female full-time employees. And the agency doesn't account for this when reporting the workplace gender pay gap.
Using ABS data on employee earnings and hours, the gender pay gap as at May 2016 was 15.7%. It is a survey of employees, that information from the ABS. It's not a census. And it's only conducted every 2 years. They only collect the data every 2 years. What we do is we annualise our figure to full-time. So we look at all part-time employees and full-time employees that may have worked part of a 12-month period, and we annualise that data to take into account part-time hours. So therefore we're converting the part-time hours to full-time, if you like.
So do you take into account the fact that on average a male full-time employee works longer hours than a female full-time employee?
Not directly, no.
You don't?
But we annualise the part-time hours and those that have worked full-time but for part of the year. So that way, because at the moment, what I can tell you is women work part-time at 3 times the rate of men. So by annualising it, we are looking at a more realistic...
So you base it on annual salary?
Yeah.
What about if you did it on an hourly rate? What would be the gender hourly pay gap?
Well, we don't have that data, Senator.
You don't have that data?
No, because we ask for annualised salaries from our employers when they report their data in.
Okay, so if a woman was working fewer hours but earning the same rate per hour as a man doing the same job, would that show up as a gender pay gap?
No.
But, well, then in that case you are looking at hourly rates.
Janine Budhoft, Research and Analytics Executive Manager. So we do not collect the real hours that an employee might have worked. So what we do collect is the hours that are specified in a contract, and that is provided by organisations to us. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, do you annualise it on the assumption that men and women are working the same number of hours, or is it actual earnings?
It's actual earnings, and we are unable to. We don't have the data to distinguish or to then adjust for hours, because we cannot collect the real hours that employees are working.
So it's not possible to tell whether any or some of the gender pay gap is just simply attributable to a different number of hours worked. Is that right?
It depends on whether we're looking at hours that are in contract, or whether we're looking at hours that employees worked as, overtime.
Why is it you don't look at hours worked? You don't collect it, but the ABS does. It's available.
The ABS does a survey, yes.
Every 2 years.
Yes.
But again, as I say, we collect census data, that is survey data. And the other thing I would say at this stage, Senator, is just because somebody might be sitting at their desk for 12 hours a day doesn't mean you're getting 12 hours of productivity out of them, and doesn't mean that they're working in essence any harder than someone that may sit at their desk for 8 hours. So I don't think...
That's true, but they're getting paid for the 12 whether they're doing any work, or they're getting paid for however many hours they're sitting at their desk. And the issue for your agency is that if it's a male sitting at a desk, they're getting paid more than a female sitting at a desk. So the question is whether that, irrespective of the hours, the question is whether for those hours for which they're getting paid, is there a difference between men and women? So
We don't collect information on hours, Senator.
ABS does, so it's available. So if we put in a question on notice, will you access the ABS data and so you can answer that question?
Well, I did answer it earlier. I said that the ABS employee and earnings and hours data, as at May 2016, the gender pay gap was 15.7%.
That, if I understood you correctly, it's referring to annualised salary, is that right?
Not.
What's the gap based on? Per hourly rates or annual incomes or annualised incomes, or what are we talking about here?
Okay. The EEH data, so that's the employee earnings and hours data, includes all employees regardless of employment status and reflects ordinary time cash earnings. The EEH survey produces hourly earnings for non-managers and can be used to produce a gender pay gap measure inclusive or exclusive of part-time employees. The EEH data can also be configured in a variety of other ways that are useful to the gender pay gap estimates, e.g. managerial versus non-managerial employees. The big drawback from where we sit is that EEH data was identified as being, is just done on a 2-year cycle.
I don't think I can think of many men who would find it acceptable that a woman, irrespective of how many hours she's working in the day, if she's doing the same amount of work as a man, or the same job as a man, was paid any less on the basis that she's a woman. I can't think of any men who would support that. And yet, because you're not looking at hours, we don't know whether that's occurring or not. Am I right there?
Senator, I think at this stage, as I've said to you, we are unable to collect and analyse that data. There are other countries, of course, that do that, and we will...
Not even every 2 years with the ABS survey data? You could do it at least every 2 years.
And I gave you the figure of 15.7% based on the calculation that we last did.
What's the 15.7 reflect?
So what I was about to say, Senator, is I'm happy to take that question on notice and go back and look at that last calculation that we did and provide you with the workings on that.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's me, Lamprey Milt, MGTOW Chats, episode, I can't remember the episode number. Tonight, we have a very special guest. It is Casual Bachelor. Casual Bachelor has a great YouTube channel. I love him for his basic roasting on women's contradictions. He drops a lot of good red pill knowledge for all the guys in the manosphere. Casual Bachelor, how are you?
Doing good.
Well, I want to start by asking you, because I've seen some of your videos. I check in once in a blue moon. I'll watch a video, maybe one a week of yours. How did you get into MGTOW? Where did you come up with this whole manosphere idea? And give us a little bit of your history.
Well, I think Tom Likas was probably how I got into it, I guess, is, I started watching, well, whoever was uploading the Tom Likas content on YouTube. So you end up watching through all of those, and then, then you start potentially, going into the Sandmans and some of the other channels. But as far as like an introduction, it would probably be like I think it was called on his show Likas 101.
Mm-hmm.
He would do it maybe once a week on his show, and it was basically, a version of MGTOW before that was even a thing. Basically, it was, don't spend more than $20 on a date. It was very male, male friendly, let's say.
Well, Tom Likas happens to come from my neck of the woods. He's from Long Island, New York. He's been around for about 25 years or so. I remember mentioning him to my father, and he was saying that a lot of his coworkers were all into Tom Likas, and he's really good. He talks a lot about Poindexter's Revenge, where if guys in their 20s study hard, work really hard, open a Roth IRA, study the stock market, look for investments and things like that, eventually when you're in your 40s and 50s, you'll be the guy that a lot of young women will start chasing. So he came up with a very pragmatic approach for young guys on how to squirrel away money and try to not focus so much on women when you're young, and try to stay focused and look long term towards things. And I really admire that about him. He also brings up the fact that the marriage in the West is essentially dead, and obviously
Well,
if
he
you're
used to not say very nice things about American women, right? He used to say that, I don't know if it was after a second or third marriage, where he goes, I'm not dating a American woman. I think he dated women from, I mean, they might have lived in America, but I think he was dating women from Argentina, Korea. He was basically dating anyone that wasn't sort of that typical Western feminized American woman.
a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of women are definitely boilerplate today in America. So that's cool. So you learned a little bit about Tom Likas, and what was kind of your inspiration that you wanted to start making content instead of just listening to content?
It's kind of weird because it was basically because one of my video games was delayed for like a week, and I sort of had a week time on my hands, and I did a couple of sort of response videos, and then it kind of just sort of spiraled from there. But I mean, initially I was never planning on creating any kind of content. I enjoyed just doing my own thing, watching the content, maybe being a bit more active in the comment section and things like that. But basically it was that downtime between, like, a game should have came on a day, and it took a week, and then I think I made maybe 2 videos over that time, and then yeah, I ended up making a few more videos. But no, it wasn't anything necessarily planned. I suppose maybe I looked at some content and I thought this is kind of crappy for MGTOW, and I decided to. But it's not like my content's like super whatever, but in comparison to other content I had seen, I was thinking, oh well, I'll just give a different perspective, a different
point of view.
I mean, because you say roasting, but I don't know. I tried to, I guess, roast the argument rather than the person or the picture. Some people like to say, oh, look at her neck and all this other stuff, and it's fair enough if that's what you want to do. But I don't know if YouTube likes that or not. But I tried to basically roast their bad argument or their bad points that they brought up.
What were some that stood out to you that really bothered you?
What do you mean by that?
Like, is there a specific video or female YouTuber that you took a liking to, like, as far as what she was stating? Because I'm sure you're aware of the popular podcast Call Her Daddy. And there's a lot of young women in America that seem to listen to this one podcast of these groups of gaggling twats that just go on and on and on about how evil men are and how all men are the same, et cetera, et cetera. Is there one in particular video that stands out that you were like, wow, these women have no idea what they're talking about?
Nah, not really. I suppose initially I used to try to go against people that were talking crap on MGTOW, and then eventually once this channel built up, I started to go into some other topics, even though I still do some MGTOW topics as well, but just started to branch out into where all the good men and people are being cheap and whatever, and I don't know, but there's just a lot of content obviously to work with. I mean, no one's forcing these ladies to obviously make the video and then put it up on YouTube and keep it on there as well, by the way. So it's all fair game in my opinion. It's not like I don't know.
Well,
What am I
you're
thinking?
not reinventing the wheel, but I think your approach to these things is funny. A lot of guys in the manosphere seem to like be obsessed with the black pill, where everything is shit, and obviously you talk about the 80-20 rule. You see the rise of incel, where they seem to be more obsessed with the look maxing, where guys have to
Well,
basically.
that is totally what they're obsessed with is the look maxing. But I actually feel, even though I like parts of the black pill, I feel like the black pill is now being infiltrated by some of these incels. I don't know if the incels got kind of booted out of MGTOW. There used to be a thing going around back in the day that MGTOW was getting infiltrated by incels, but I think now it seems like the black pill's being infiltrated by the incels. But
I
I
totally
always
agree with you. I totally agree with you 100% on that.
But like as far as the black pill goes, I always viewed the black pill as there's a good side and a bad side to the black pill. Whereas like, the harsh truths, the truths that people don't want to talk about, that's good. But then the whole like looks maxing and everything else is like, well, that's kind of fine, but I don't really get the message that's trying to send. Like we're telling men that they need to have like chin surgery and nose surgery and stuff. Is what's going on, man?
Ass implants and pec implants.
I mean, no one in the black pill is going to talk about just creating a likable personality, creating a comedic personality. There's plenty of ugly guys that are funny and jolly and likable that can get some chicks. Obviously they might need some resources as well, but they don't really talk about the funny pill. Like
Yeah.
actually just being a likable, funny person.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Despite the ongoing social upheaval, especially with social media, things like Instagram and Snapchat and Tinder and what have you, women definitely like to be entertained. A lot of it also has to do with, I think, the amount of attention they require, where you've got to act like somewhat of a court gesture for them,
Yeah.
where you got to constantly keep them, stimulated one way or another. I love making women laugh, and even when I use dating apps, I'll always say something kind of like off the cuff, funny, and really gets their minds going. And like, well, what does that mean? What do you mean
Yeah.
by that? And women tend to respond positively when you kind of throw them these curveballs and instead of saying, "Oh, baby, you look so good, you're so hot," and try to pick them up with some corny pickup
Because you have
line.
to think too, how many people play that same thing? So at least if you're being, well, trying to be funny, whatever, there's a there's a there's a decent chance that it's going to be more original than half of the other crap that's in our inbox, right? Because
Mhm.
most likely you're not going to potentially tell the same joke as someone else. I mean, you could, but I mean, everyone's going to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" and all the the sort of generic stuff.
Right. Well, I think with social media, which is something that a lot of these a lot of the guys in MGTOW and the Manosphere discuss is the ongoing issues with social media. There's no doubt about it, but you see that I think a lot of young women are also kind of rudderless and they're not too sure what it is they want, and they're not, especially with Western women, white women, they're also much more coy. They're a little bit more. They tend to be much more ambiguous on what it is they want and such. And I think being more assertive, they tend to respond better in that regards instead of you just kind of basically being rudderless with them. They don't tend to like that. And that's where they tend to start ghosting you or don't really have any much expectations on actually meeting you. So I don't know what
Yeah.
it's like over by you, being in New Zealand. I've met some women from Australia and some women from your country. And there is cultural differences. There's no doubt about it. Even though we both speak English, me coming from the East Coast, you coming from the South Pacific, what do you see as far as women in your neck of the woods? Do you see the same type of problems that you see in the United States
Well, let's put it this way: both New Zealand and Australia, both New Zealand and America have an obesity problem. That's just that's the facts. And I don't know what it's almost like they really don't care about men because they're putting the product out on the table and they're saying this is what you deserve. You deserve 5'4", 170 pounds on average. I mean, obviously that some bigger ones than that. I'll
Right,
tell you that right now.
25 years old, 25 years old, and she's already obese.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
before you've even popped a baby in them. You know.
right, and this is what you get. You get a sloppy heifer, and this is and you have to do mental gymnastics and drive a Porsche.
And this heifer's probably had some half decent CC as well. So now you're competing with some Chad that was bored one night that blew her back out. So you've got to throw that into the mix as well. It's not, they've people that necessarily before social media would not have had that opportunity are now getting the Tuesday, Wednesday night booty calls sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I've recently relocated to another state, and women in New York are put themselves together quite well. They're very attractive. They care about their appearance. They they wear good makeup. They dress quite well. And now living in a more let's say not as not as affluent as New York, I see way more obese women that are, again, 24, 25, 26, no kids, and way more than me. And just the general nastiness of them. I'm like, excuse me, you're way about 30 pounds more than me. What are you bringing to the table besides your nasty attitude? And I think a lot of that stems from both feminism, but also that they're trying to compete with you on some level. So when I'm trying to get to know the other, they're already trying to be quite defensive, like, what it is you want, what do you want? Or they're trying to challenge you on some type of level where, they basically being a bitch is being equal to a man, which is not the case. That's my general my overview when it comes to meeting women these days.
Yeah. Yes, that's tough. It's tough. Like,
You see where I'm coming from? It's like instead of being an equal, they're also trying to compete with you, or they try to drag you into a political debate. And I always tell young women or women that are my age, I go, hey, look, two things in my life my parents taught me not to discuss with strangers. One is religion, the other is politics. I don't really feel comfortable talking about politics to someone I just met, let alone someone I'm trying to sleep with. So if you're already trying to drag me into a political debate, we're already on the wrong footing. And I think a lot of things in Western countries is the over politicization of everything: the car you drive, where you live, your race, your job, your marital status, et cetera, et cetera. So no matter what type of conversation you're trying to gear it towards, or you're trying to, have some type of dialogue, it becomes political one way or another. I don't know if that's the same where you live, but that's something that I've taken away at least the past couple of years.
well, politics is the new religion now.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I mean, people like to talk crap about religion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But end of the day, humans are ideological creatures. So just because we've, removed religion doesn't mean that that's it. It means it gets replaced by something else. It gets replaced by science. People throw around the term, "Don't you believe in science?" And are you a climate change denier?
Are you an anti-masker?
Yeah, it's gone completely 360, because once upon a time, religious people used to say, "Oh, do you deny? Are you a God denier?" Now it's flipped around to, "Are you a science denier? Are you a politics denier or something?"
You're a COVID denier.
Yeah, well, the magic term that they throw around, "Oh, you're just one of those conspiracy theorists." Well, when the information's so vague, then unfortunately you're going to create people that are going to fill in the gaps, and you can call them whatever you want, but the reason they're filling in the gaps is because there are gaps. I mean, what did it take? It took Trump to release the JFK files. I mean, people, isn't that where the term conspiracy theory came from, was JFK?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. 100%.
I mean, you can't tell me that there wasn't holes in that. I mean, how many different there's hypothetically like 7 different shooters on JFK, so I don't even know.
Well, I'm glad to
with
see you know quite a bit about American politics. Good on you, man.
Just a little bit, but as far as that politics and religion thing, you know, I'm from England originally, and that used to be in pubs in England, and it would be a sign on the pub. It would say, "No politics, no religion," because those two are contentious topics. And if you're in a bar setting, you don't come to a bar for contention. You come to the bar to have a beer, throw some darts, maybe watch some stock cars or watch whatever sports is on.
To be
So
casual.
yeah, so those
Yeah.
two topics are indeed contentious topics, politics and religion.
It wasn't like that growing up. Now even my little brother, he's 10 years old, and he's talking about, Trump this and
Mhm.
LGBT that. I go, man, you're
Yep.
10 years old. Like I was playing Pokemon cards and playing a PlayStation 1, It's like
What
I
you
don't
just
really
have to
want
think
my
about
little
who are these teachers teaching it.
right. It's like so
That's
weird having my little brother talk about these things that when I didn't even give a shit about politics till,
uh,
even
I didn't
10
care
years
about
ago.
politics all of high school.
Me too, 100%.
All of
Yep.
high school. I was too busy playing sports, obviously trying to pass my classes, playing Pokemon, because Pokemon was on Game Boy when I was in high school. I mean, I was playing Pokemon Red, and my friend was playing Pokemon Blue, and we'd trade stuff like that. We were the two weirdos in the library playing Pokemon, yet both of us were on the sports teams and stuff anyway. But
Hmm.
we weren't worried about politics, and even in high school, it's crazy when you talk about 10-year-olds because it shows that these teachers are being political in primary. I don't know if they call elementary schools in America, but we've got primary school, then intermediate school, then high school.
Yep.
So they're getting political even before high school now, whereas we didn't even get political in high school. So,
Nor did any of my teachers, I don't know about you, ever really discuss politics. It was kind of a
uh,
taboo topic.
well, we were too busy doing, maths, English, and science and stuff.
Oh, we were learning. Yes, you're right.
We were too busy trying to, pass the exam, pass the test.
Yeah, 100%. It's just strange the times that we're living in. Now, going back to the whole women aspect of things, are they in the thrall of it all? Do you see them also being obsessed with social media as they are in the United States? Perhaps it's even worse where you're from.
Um, well, it's probably similar. I mean, I don't know too detailed about how bad it is in high school, because when I was in high school, I think we had maybe MSN Messenger, you know, and
Yeah,
people
we
were
had
obviously.
AIM Messenger. Yep. So we're about the same age. Yep, that's what we had too.
So yeah, like people were still setting up whatever, but now you've got, Snapchat, messages that can be deletable. So now you've got who knows what's going on nowadays, man. Jeepers.
Well, now you got the TikTok is the latest, and I find TikTok to be quite there's something type of nefarious agenda surrounding the whole TikTok thing because it tends to reward people's attention deficits. So you put out like a 5-10 second video, and you do that over and over and over again, and you watch it repetitively over and over and over again. Whereas as if you're putting like a 10-15 minute video out, people just don't have the attention span anymore to watch something that's considered long. And
Yeah.
I find TikTok to be quite strange because it kind of coincides with Snapchat. And I find that TikTok is some type of grooming tool where they go from, TikTok to like a Snapchat premium.
Yeah.
From there, then it's like to OnlyFans. So I see like young people, young women using these things as a form of to fulfill their attention deficits, let us say.
Yeah, and they use all the different things to link up to other services. I mean, you'll see. I mean, a lot of them will use Tinder to get Instagram followers, and
Right.
you know,
Don't just match with me. If I don't respond to you, follow me on Instagram. And
yeah,
from there,
yeah,
she's garnishing more attention, and the more followers she has, the better she is than her friends. And oh, if she put out a scandalous clip of herself on a beach in a bikini, looking hot in a thong, well, now I have to up the ante, and now I have to get shitted on in Dubai or something like crazy like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you throw, it's crazy. I mean, I know some people here from New Zealand that have flown out to Dubai, and you can only imagine what kind of stuff that they're doing when they're getting flown out, right?
Well, we've covered that extensively on MGTOW chats about these young women, again, in the thrall of it all, where they're going to do selfies in Dubai, going to places like Santorini, Greece, which is the, as I like to call it, the Hajj, the white girl wailing wall, let us say, that they all just, for whatever reason, they just want to be seen in Santorini. Well,
Yeah.
how exactly are you getting to Santorini? Is it your father paying for you? Are you working? Who exactly is flying you out to these locations? And that kind of opens a Pandora's box, and you start learning more and more about these things. I was recently talking to one Chinese immigrant. She's sending me photos of herself 10 years ago in Dubai. I'm like, how the hell did you get in Dubai? And well, lo and behold, some guy with a yacht, some oil
Yeah.
tycoon invited
There's
her on a
always a
yacht.
yacht, right? There's always a yacht.
Avocado toast and champagne and brunches on a yacht,
Right.
100%, you know?
And
Yeah.
then they hit 30 and they say, we're all the good men. And they just think we're all idiots, that we're, that we're going to just take some used up car and think that it's brand new. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I-
got 200,000 kilometers on it. The
yeah.
transmission's slipping. The leather seats are all beat up. You know,
Cam
it's
belt
got
needs
this.
to be replaced. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a check engine light on, and she's like, "Well, here I am." And what's the price tag on this? $10,000? No,
But
no,
in
no,
their
no.
mind, they think that you're lucky to finally have such a, well, because she still thinks that she's as hot as she was 10 years ago. See,
Hmm.
then they don't grow out of that. They think that they're still a 10 at 30. And even if they are super attractive, there's no such thing as a 10 at 30. Even Jessica Alba, when she turned 30, wasn't a 10. She was obviously well, to me anyway, everyone's got different tastes, but she was a 10 during her like Into the Blue Sin City days,
Hmm.
when she was in her prime. But I don't care who you are. Once you cross that 30 line, I mean, you can be a 9, you can be a 9.5, but you're not a 10 anymore. Well, not as far as marriage is concerned, anyway. Not as far as like long-term commitment is concerned.
Well, the whole point of wearing a white wedding gown was to it was a symbol of her
Purity.
virginity,
Yeah.
her being chaste. Now at 30, she's been ran through by a bunch of chads, the bass player to some fucking garage band, the bartender, the
The
oil
bouncer.
tycoon, yeah, the bouncer, right? You know, she's giving blowjobs to get in so she didn't have to pay the cover charge. Absolutely 100%. And here she comes at 30, 31, 32. Well, here I am. I'm here to settle down. Like, and then
And
also
and and,
yeah,
and like
go.
people don't understand the wear and tear too, because I had my dad do genealogy work, and some chick had her first kid at like 36. This is back in the day,
Mm.
and then she had another 6 children. Now, I don't know if that same thing could happen for today's 36-year-old, because I'm assuming that she was probably relatively like a clean vehicle, right? She probably wasn't riding around the CC and doing drinking and drugs and everything else. So there's a reason why they're having to do all these sort of special, what is it, $20,000 IVs and stuff to have kids, because their body is getting demolished with all this partying and CC riding.
Right, well, they waste all their energy on drinking and partying when their energy should be geared towards more raising children or taking care of the community and things like that. Instead, she's wasting her energy and her fertility
Well,
on the night scene.
she's basically destroying her body. Like really, she's just destroying her body.
You know what's so crazy? Even now that we're kind of still in lockdown mode, wearing the mask and what have you, from what I can tell, is that it really has not affected young women as much as I anticipated. So, like, if I go out, I still see young women out and about carrying on their usual routine of partying, drinking, and things like that, even while there's curfews, even when there's, certain capacity limits for restaurants and bars. It doesn't seem to really affect them. And a lot of young men, such as ourselves, see this. And we're more cognitively aware of the long term where young women, especially Western women, are more living in the constant present. They don't seem to look forward to say, hey, where are you going to be when you're 40, 45, 50? Are you just going to have a bunch of dogs and be a hermit and be that wine cooler aunt? So it seems a bit strange that no one's really rearing in young women's hypergamy to explain to them, hey, look, are you planning for the future? What is your long-term expectations? And guys, we have the ability to reproduce at any age. And we'll get into like where our mindsets are. We're in our 30s and 40s where we could become a little bit more, we're more cognitively aware on who we are and what it is we want. And the same goes for women, that look, I want this, this, and this, and I'm not going to bend to another guy's, edicts or what it is that he wants. So I see that young women tend to, again, think that they're still hot shit and they can still get what it is they want even into their latter years.
Well, there's only one guy that I've sort of seen that's tried to rein in the hypergamy, and he gets a lot of flack for it, is Kevin Samuels, when he has these calls with these chicks and says, well, what are you going to bring to the high value man? Like, he's actually saying these guys have options. You've got to entice them. And they find out quite quickly that, man, maybe I wasted 12 years of my life if I really wanted this high value guy. But I mean, it's hard to try and rein in hypergamy. You start going down those topics hardcore, you'll get, shadow banned or deplatformed or whatever, get called for hate speech. So
yeah, you catch flack when you're over the target. You're gonna catch flack like a fucking World War II bomber.
Yeah.
And that is one thing you do, man. You're like a B-29 over fucking Germany in 1945. That's one cool thing about your channel that I really dig a lot. Is like you just go right over the target and just start carpet bombing the shit out of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully I do it in a way that YouTube doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I try not to put down their physical appearance, even though, people in the comments, they say whatever they want. People will try to say it's my responsibility. How is it my responsibility? If I was really honest about my channel, I've only got, out of all my viewership, I've only got 22% of them are my subs. So I've potentially got 70 to 80% that aren't sub to me. How am I supposed to control them? They're not even wanting to sub to me. Anyone can watch content and then comment. Anyone. Like the enemy could watch your content and comment. So unless a content provider's commenting and saying some random crap, you don't know where it's coming from. This is the internet, right? Everyone's all anonymous to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I wanted to get into the video that really kind of got me listening to you a little bit more and wanted me to reach out to you. One of the reasons why we're having this chat, you did one where this I guess this Filipino chick, Americanized Filipino chick, was talking about guys going to the Philippines to try to find this trad wife. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, I mean, for starters, Philippine is very Catholic based. So you could find yourself, a virgin wife, but there's a lot of single mothers over there too.
She's not going to be speaking English if she's 19 years old, living in the rural parts of the Philippines, providing for her family because her family's impoverished.
In the rural parts, yeah, probably not. If you're in the main cities though, a lot of them can be reasonable in English. You might meet them in college and stuff as well. Pretty much, if they go to college, they're going to be speaking English.
Well, my experience with Southeast Asian women is if they're speaking English, they're usually whores.
Wow. Well, that's what you hear too, is that these women that are talking to men online, the ones that can speak English and stuff, a lot of them have boyfriends, like Filipino boyfriends or whatever, Cambodian boyfriends, whatever country it is. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of playing both sides of the field. They're still playing the national game, and now with the internet, they're able to play the international game. And they do it simultaneously.
Yeah, from my experience with women of Southeast Asia, you may be banging this one chick, but she has a Filipino or Cambodian boyfriend in the background, and one way or another, the Western guy's money is going to that guy also. In a sense, he's living off of the Western guy via proxy. I've
Yeah.
seen that quite often. I was flirting with this older woman, and we're flirting back and forth, and it was ongoing for a couple months, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I was like, oh, I want to meet up with you, and she goes, oh, how much money you give me? And I said a certain number, and then I hear the guy in the background, he goes, no, $50. I go, wait a second, that's your husband in the background. She's like, no, it's not my boy, it's not my husband. And I go,
Yeah.
bullshit, it is so your husband in the background. Stop lying to me. It's I definitely experienced that one way or another. And I social media didn't really take off when I was living in Southeast Asia. It was kind of in its fetus stage, let us say.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend at the time, she had a bunch of guys from all over the globe just messaging her, and I'm like, how did these guys even come across your page? And she didn't really know, but they would just start blowing her up through her direct messages, like, you're so beautiful, this, that, and the other, and she would send
Was this
photos.
on like Facebook or Instagram? Was it on one of
Facebook.
those?
It was
Yeah.
Facebook. And these guys have no idea what this woman's life is really truly about. Like, are these guys that desperate? Is the situation for the dating inequality in like Mexico? I know one guy was from Mexico, another guy was from Israel, another guy was from Iraq. Are the situations that bad in those nations that these guys have to go about and messaging a woman halfway around the globe? And from what I can tell, it most certainly is the case, because what social media has done is it's given women the access to every man on the planet. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. In the past, if you lived in any part of a country, you were regulated by proximity. You didn't have the ability to really message someone that lived in a foreign land, or 10 times, X amount of time zones away from you.
Even to some degree, you didn't even have much way of communicating with people from other cities that are
Right.
2 hours away, sort of thing, even within your own country.
Yeah, I was a girl that was cutting my hair for a long time, a best friend's sister, uh, got out of a 10-year relationship, and she never really used Tinder or Bumble or Hinge or anything like that. And her first move was to use these social media dating apps. And I told her, hey, look, that's probably not the best way of doing things after getting out of a 10-year relationship, because she would be somewhat of a greenhorn, where she's kind of obviously a little bit more, how do we say, uh, not guilty. What the hell's the word? I'm losing the word. More, son of a bitch. She's more green. She doesn't really know what it is she wants.
Like a rookie.
She's a rookie, right? So her move was to just jump right onto Tinder. Sure enough, she starts dating a guy that's 2 hours away by car. And I was like, well, where is this going to lead? Like, what's going to happen? You can't really have a relationship with a guy that's 2 hours away by car. And sure enough, that guy was just playing the scene. He was just playing girls. He was obviously of a high status male, and she naturally got burned. And lo and behold, fast forwarding, she became a little bit more of a bitch, and she started just painting a broad brush on all guys are like this. And that's kind of what I've seen with women's, that's the word, innocence. She was much more innocent. And when women start using these social media dating apps, they tend to lose their innocence one way or another, and they see what other women are doing on social media, so therefore they have to do those things.
Well, if they're looking for like a proper relationship, they shouldn't be on those apps. Those apps, they're hookup apps, especially now. Maybe once upon a time you might have been able to find a date, but now they are just straight up hookup apps. I mean, I don't see them as anything other than that.
Well, 20 years ago, I remember my eldest cousin, she couldn't really find a suitable partner to marry and have children with. So she started using eHarmony or Match.com. I forgot which one it was, but it was quite some time ago. We were still using flip phones, and the internet was kind of still getting its legs from underneath it. And when she brought her future husband to Christmas dinner, me, my brother, my uncles, even her sister were kind of like snickering and laughing, like you had to use a dating website to find someone. Like, what a loser you must be. And now it seems to be, and now it's like kind of it's the
It's the
entry
norm.
level.
Yeah. It's, well, because I don't know if that pushed it more towards the dating app, all the sort of Me Too stuff. I think the dating apps became like safer for guys to approach because, people were getting, if they're not Chad and they're approaching, they get called creepy or whatever, right? So
Yes.
I don't know if that made the dating apps more enticing or not, or if people were just a bit lazier and, not going out as
Or guys are
much.
just afraid. People are afraid of each other.
Yeah,
It's kind of
pretty much.
I call it the avoid approach repetition. That's kind of my way of describing it, where you approach a woman, she gets scared, and she takes it's two steps forward, three steps back. You keep going and chasing, and she'll
Yeah.
approach you and then run away, like kind of like a fucking deer.
Well, see, I know exactly the whole cat and mouse game, and when I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, it just got a bit old. The older I got, it was like I don't like playing this sort of dumb game over and over again.
Yeah,
But
what do you want? Can we just hang out and get together? And
yeah,
well,
but
I
then
don't
but then it takes
know.
away all the surprise for them. See, they want it. It needs to be mysterious, and that's why
Right.
you have to play these games. There is no such thing as a guy's dream version is just come home and everything's chill and that's they don't like that. They like a little bit of chaos, unfortunately.
Well, that's why they chase the bad boy.
Well, I think I did a video on this saying that the reason why they go for the bad boy is because they can hold him accountable. If they go for a guy that's got his shit together, they're going to be potentially held accountable now.
Hmm.
With the bad boy, they get to play miss accountability. Oh, make sure you fill up the car, make sure you pick me up from work, all this sort of stuff.
Well, it's not
So,
only that, all the other reason why they tend to date bad boys, it's a way to basically they get to not be held responsible. They can just point at him and say, look
yeah,
what he's doing. He's abusive. He's out doing drugs. He's out late at
yeah,
night. He got arrested again, so on and so forth. And it's like, well, what do I do? And it's kind of this damsel in distress. Like, I love him so much. I want to
yeah.
take
That's
care of
that's
him and
that's
stuff.
always the main thing is because someone will say like, well, why don't you leave? And then that's the cliche, isn't it? Because I love him.
Right.
Because I love him.
Right, and it's at the end of the day, it's women that control the sex game. So if you continue to keep dating this guy, obviously you're the one that's doing something wrong. And as soon as you flip it on them, saying, "Well, obviously you are who you sleep with. If that's who you sleep with, what does that say about you as a
Yeah,
person?"
yeah. Well, you can just say, well, you chose him. No one forced you to swipe right on Chad and to go over to his house. You literally picked him out. So, but accountability is their kryptonite, and they'll find ways of just shifting the goalpost.
Yeah, I kind of boil a lot of things down to just the sexual immaturity of not just women but men also. I think a lot of guys um, I don't really believe in this whole thing like guys watch pornography and that's what they expect women to do and things like that.
No,
I don't.
no,
I think
that's
that's a
that's
bit of a cop
that's
out.
BS. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 100%.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's women talk about sex, but they don't actually engage in sex. So you see, like obviously the hypersexualization on mass media, on television, especially in music, and you see certain people being promoted on Instagram. Um, but yeah, okay, it's a sexy image. She's really hot and everything, but is she actually sleeping with anyone? Or is she just more or less just getting off to the attention that all these betas seem to be throwing at her? And probably
For
she
sure.
goes out at night and she'll go out Friday, Saturday night and go out with some guy that she perceives as being a Chad.
Yeah, like the attention, 100%. They love that, and I don't know if people bring this up enough. Is that they like to shame men for dolls and toys and stuff, but let's really be honest. Who has a drawer full of toys? And who's had them for years? I know some people that have spent thousands of dollars getting stuff shipped to their house. I can't relate. I've not spent any money on any of that stuff.
You're spending
So
just $5 on a thing of Vaseline and fucking and some fucking hand loation. That's as far as
but
it goes for you.
like in the sense of they're able to get their itch scratched online, and then they scratch their own. They're potentially able to scratch their own itch with all the toys at their disposal. At their disposal. So, and then you throw in the hypothetical Chad too that they can potentially snag on Tinder.
Mhm.
And why would they want to get married? See, they only start thinking about this once the options dry up.
Right.
Once they get to that late 20s, early 30s, let's say between the ages of 27 to 32, somewhere in that time frame, they figure it out, but then they realize that the guys that were interested in them are going after the girl that was her age 5-10 years ago. So
Right. And that puts pressure on the younger demographics, because this is something that a lot of MGTOW guys don't discuss, is that if no one's getting married, people are divorced, right? What are these guys supposed to do? Well, they're chasing hot younger women, and that hurts younger guys' chances of catching or dating or marrying someone that is within their own age bracket. So when you see marriage start to collapse, the institution of marriage collapse, you have guys now 40 and 50 who already had children, who have already been through a marriage, maybe more than one, start chasing younger women, and it doesn't give young men an opportunity to really get into the dating scene.
well, you want to throw in the sugar stuff as well, right? That doesn't help the young men either, because now they've not got the resources to compete with a sugar daddy,
Mm-hmm.
like plain and simple.
Do you think
So
it's that prevalent? Do you see that being as prevalent as many people perceive it to be in the manosphere?
what the sugar
Yeah,
daddy stuff?
the sugar daddy action.
I think it's starting to grow.
Hmm.
I think it's starting because a lot of things are just naturally becoming transactional, and then guys are just thinking, well, here we go. I may as well just,
Yeah, throw
I
her a
mean,
couple $100 and call it a day.
what is it? Is it just Las Vegas with the bunny ranch? Is that the only place that people can kind of go for?
Yeah, it's Reno, Nevada. Yes, correct.
So it'll be interesting if they ever open that up to some other states. I'm potentially surprised that like California doesn't have it, but
See,
there's obviously a reason. There's
I'm
obviously a
under
reason.
the assumption that it's deliberate, that they will not legalize prostitution because they rather have men pent up and pissed off. There seems to be more of an objective to separate the sexes from actually having sex.
But
So
that's
there
why
was
I'm
a
thinking that the sugar daddy thing's gonna potentially grow because that's like a kind of like a form of it, right?
Well, there's a buffer. The buffer is the websites. So let's take OnlyFans. I don't know how much money OnlyFans makes off these accounts, but obviously social media is becoming the pimp.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it, and the other aspect of it is that guys are just paying for pictures and images, or just paying to talk to another woman. So
It says that OnlyFans take a 20% cut on its users'
that's a
transactions.
lot of money, man. That's a lot of money.
Well, it says it goes OnlyFans keeps a very healthy 20% of any payments that subscribers make.
Well, there you go. And you see, since COVID, you see the rise of OnlyFans. And again, I see this the whole lockdown aspect of things being deliberate to again separate the sexes from actually meeting one another and engaging in sex that could lead to procreation or a marriage.
Yeah.
And the other thing is once you commodify the relationship, it really boils things down to a very primitive mindset. So instead of developing a bond and companionship and love, if you believe in love, but it seems to be a bit strange that you no longer really care about what the other person wants, what their
Well,
emotional needs are.
that's the big point right there. no one gives a crap what men think. I mean, look at all the decades of daytime television. Half the time they didn't even have a guy on the panel. And if they did have a guy on the panel, he's just beta. He's just, just along for the ride. So they never truly wanted to know what men want. I mean, men are quite simple. They just want someone that's kind, caring,
I say
someone that's going to be a
thin and
mother to their
pleasant.
children.
Thin and pleasant. Can you be thin and pleasant?
Yeah, well, you could boil it down to thin and a good mother. That's what a guy looks for. Because he wants someone that's going to be a good mother to his children. So, but they've got no problem having, I mean, there was a segment on the Steve Harvey show where she had like 4 or 5 pillars of the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a model. She's not a 10 out of 10. They almost put those requirements because then it becomes an excuse as to why she's single rather than just she's single because she's single. She's trying to say that she's single because she hasn't met someone that ticks off all these boxes. And some of these boxes didn't even make sense. They were like, she wanted someone that was protective but not bigger than her. And it was weird anyway. Just
It's so strange, I see a lot of women, what their requirements are, just like what you were just describing, where they want a guy who's a vegan, but also a masculine and is down with Black Lives Matter. Well, you're not getting all those things. Those men are called gay.
Yeah. Those or those men are called liars. They're just gonna say certain things and then ghost on the way out. So
yeah, they'll meet them, they'll hit it and quit it and be done with it. Women deal with rejection on the back end. Men have to deal with rejection on the front end. So the more and more men get rejected on the front end, they kind of regress, play video games, smoke pot, work a meaningless 9-to-5 job. Women put out, they bang some guy and then, well, where did he go? Oh, and then again, she becomes kind of basically a bitch afterwards.
Yeah.
I definitely see a correlation with the amount of men women sleep with and their level of bitchiness. Like the lower amount of men they slept with, the more kinder and gentler they tend to be. Versus, this rode hard and put away wet 35-year-old.
Well, especially in New York. But the one thing I did notice over these past, like, say, well, I guess 4 years, but really over the past 2 years was how many articles I saw coming out saying, if he's a Trump supporter, should I do this? I never saw that pre-Trump. I never saw this like, if he's a Democrat or Republican, they can't date. I'm sure Republicans and Democrats have been dating for decades, because
well, yeah,
at the end
you
of the
weaponize
day,
the opposite sex. She's now politicized. Now you're dealing with a social justice warrior for a date. Like, is that what a guy really wants?
No. It's not.
No, right. And
at
it
all.
goes back. You're basically on your first or second date. It's already turning into a political argument instead of just meeting and hanging out and spending time and quality time with the other. Yeah, and you're 100% right about if you're a Trump supporter, swipe. I think swipe left. I have seen that quite a bit, and it makes you really wonder
see if you're a Bush supporter. I mean, like, I don't know if you've been on the dating apps that long, but I never saw that with other presidents. They decided to really make it a sticking point now, as if being a Republican and in 2016 and onwards, well, that's just the new Klansman or whatever. They've totally, it's just ridiculous, really, how they've. Well, unfortunately, we've allowed them to set the narrative, and we've not just said, you know what, your narrative's full of crap, throw it out the window.
Well, we go our own way. We just say, fuck it. I'm not being a part of this clown world. I'm just going to stay home, play video games. I'll enjoy a few podcasts. I'll hang out with my friends, drink a few pints, watch football, and then women cry, well, where are all the good guys? Well, we're staying home. We're not engaging in any of these type of things. Women in Asia and women from Africa and to a lesser extent South America, they're more assertive. They're like, if they like a guy, they kind of put it out there. They let the guy know that they're interested. Where Western women, they have this odd way of expressing that they're interested. They'll like bump into you, or they'll hold the door open for you, or something trivial like that, and then they throw a hissy fit. Well, I practically threw myself at him and he didn't acknowledge me. Well, you smiling or leaving me a big tip at a restaurant is not really a good way of letting the other know that you're actually interested in them.
Yeah, and then you throw in all the false allegations, all that other crap in the window, and guys are a little bit hesitant to make these moves. I mean, and plus, some guys are just saying, this isn't worth it. I mean, there's a reason why they're saying the juice isn't worth the squeeze. That's not an accident. That's the truth. Am I wanting to work 60, 80 hours for someone that would have been a linebacker back in 1990? I mean, it's just not a good deal.
Well, in Catholicism, especially with Italian Americans, if you were to get married, the bride's family would have to fork over X amount of dollars to basically take my daughter away from me. Like, listen,
Yeah.
if you marry my daughter, I'll buy you a house and I'll give you a stable job. Okay, that seems like a pretty fair deal. That's no longer the case with the secularized West.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend. He married. He was from New Zealand. He married someone from the Netherlands, Holland, and her parents came over and tried to make sure the marriage went through. And once she got married to him, they then just moved back to Holland. It was almost like, all right, sweet, she's married now. We can go
Yeah,
back.
we can
So they
leave.
even came over
We're
to
done.
make sure it went down.
Yep. Yeah, now what these boomer parents, they're stuck with their kids that are in their late 20s and 30s, and now they're wondering, well, why aren't you finding someone? Why aren't you married? You should go out and have sex. And and young guys are like, "Well, okay, can you introduce me to where these women are? Can you point me in the right direction?" And it seemed that a lot of the boomer generation seemed like kind of basically left the wheelhouse and was like, okay, you got to steer this ship now. Well, you didn't tell me how to steer the ship to begin with. So, I learned that when in my 20s, where when I graduated high school, I'm like, okay, well, where do I go from here? Aren't I supposed to have like a full-time job and have a small flat to rent out and have a girlfriend? That wasn't the case. That is what the boomer had when they first graduated high school. That things were relatively inexpensive, houses were relatively inexpensive. Women, sure, they weren't virgins. They maybe slept around a little bit, but at the end of the day, they knew that they had to get married way before they were 30. And they kind of also looked at education as something that was secondary. Like, well, let me get married first, and let me pop out a kid or two. And since we saved up a nice nest egg, okay,
Yeah.
I can go out, take that money, and maybe get a second job and go to college or whatever. And the boomers kind of flipped that and said, well, you have to have all these things in place before you were to get married. And that's kind of where we're at now with a lot of people
Yeah.
our age.
Well, because they don't want to grow together, do they? And the boomers should have said, you're supposed to grow together. You're not. You can't have the the 6-figure job first and the house paid off first. I mean, you get a smaller house and you keep working and you keep growing, and then maybe you get a bigger house, and maybe once you've had your second or third kid and you're a bit more further in your career, now you can upgrade to the bigger house because you've got a bigger family. See, because there used to be something called a starter home.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like this isn't going to be your only home. This is just going to be a starter to get you started.
Mm-hmm.
See, now they expect you to have the mansion. Now women don't really want to grow with a man. They want to just the finished product.
Right.
And if a guy's going to just have a finished product, lady, guess what? He's going to go for the 20-year-old. He's not going to go for the 35-year-old. Why would he?
It kind of reminds me like there was I don't know if you're familiar with cars at all, but let's take a Chevy. You had a Chevy, GMC, Buick / Pontiac, and then a Cadillac. Usually, you would start with the Chevy when you're young. Then when you're in your late 30s, 40s, you'd upgrade to like a Buick. And then when you're in your 60s and 70s, you drove the Cadillac because you saved up a lot of money. You're
Yeah.
established. and now you can go out and basically splurge on yourself. You don't start with the Cadillac and work your way backwards.
No. And that's kind of what we've been taught. This like bling and show off all your stuff. It's all it's just it comes down to we're just way over materialistic, right? Like
Yeah, and that
it's
goes
not
right
even
back to
funny at this point.
the commodification of the relationship 100%. It comes full circle in a lot of ways. It seems that the objective of the powers that being, the ruling class, we're not going to get too much into that in this chat, but it seems they want to turn the whole world into this boutique shopping mall. Growing up, shopping was kind of like high-end shopping was regulated to like places like London, New York City, and
Yeah.
Paris. But now you can get those things at like the Bangkok airport.
Yeah.
There's a outlet store for Coach and Louis Vuitton in a couple towns over from wherever it is you live in the West. So in a lot of ways, I see that seems to be the going rate, where we're kind of just mixing everybody. We're getting rid of the
Well, I feel like it
intangible.
seems like they just want everyone to be renting and then on some kind of subscription, whether they're Netflix, Amazon. Like they want this constant, continual revenue because they really don't see you as a human, as American, whatever country you're from. They see you as a battery,
Yeah.
and they can just replace you. Oh, if you don't want to play ball, well, we've got some batteries over in the Middle East and Africa that'll come, and they're not going to complain like you. So people are going to find out very quickly that they're not on your side, regardless of politics, regardless of left, right. These people are not your friends. They do not have your best interests at heart. And people are going to find that out the hard way, unfortunately.
What do you think is going to happen with single people 20, 30 years down the line? Let's just say we keep going in this linear progression where it's this, I call it the subscription-based economy with the Taco Bell infrastructure. That's
Yeah.
kind of what, where you're renting everything, even with music today, where it's now on a cloud, or
Well, people just have Spotify or whatever, right? Spotify or YouTube Music. So literally everything is going to be monthly subscription. I mean, look at video games, Xbox Live, PlayStation Plus. The only way to play online, you have to normally be in some kind of, subscription, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 20, 30 years from now, single people, I mean, if everyone's all renting and subscribing, they're not going to care. Like I said, they don't view you as a person. They view you as a commodity.
Battery, a commodity, a
So
serf.
as long as you're producing and consuming, they won't care. As long as you just keep consuming stuff and rinse, repeat.
Yeah, well, I think for guys, it's much easier to go long time spans without really getting laid. Guys tend to they become a little bit more neurotic and grouchy. I definitely noticed that with a lot of expatriates that had moved abroad that were in their 50s and such. But they seem to get on much they seem to be more well adapted to whatever's at hand. Guys tend to be much better and well equipped with the whole minimalist lifestyle. With women, it seemed to be the case. I did a chat with Paul Proteus. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a very popular MGTOW content creator, and he made a point when he came on our show that, have you ever noticed that men's cars are getting smaller and women's cars are getting bigger? And I was like, 100%, man. I never even thought of it like that. Now she's driving this monster SUV that's getting 40 feet to the liter, and you're basically riding around on this little Bodo. So it's like, guys,
I've pretty much always had a smaller car, and as far as fuel economy goes, it's been good. Right. I spend less money on my car. I have less car problems. So
you're less beholden to something because you didn't take the loan. You're not in debt. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'm renting a flat or whatever, and if shit goes up for me one way or another, I can just pack up and move elsewhere. Where women want to be a little bit more well established and want to have all these toys provided to them.
People don't. Well, maybe they do, but one of the reasons for the pay gap is that men are more likely to move city, move country, because women normally want to be around their family.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend that he wanted to go to Australia to work, and guess what? They're living about 2 houses down from her parents. So they want to be, basically what I'm saying is that they're less likely to venture out and to earn that extra cash by venturing out. I mean, guys don't just travel to different cities and countries just for fun. I mean, maybe they do, but as far as career goes, they do that to advance their career or to have a career change that might have, a better future.
Well, that's one reason why I moved to Southeast Asia for 4.5 years, was more or less to find a better work opportunity, get some better job experience. And I did eventually get that, and I'm quite grateful for that opportunity. The whole, you know, being with women of Southeast Asia, that was more or less of a dividend. That was kind of like a bonus, a bit of a perk moving to a country like that. And I learned quite a bit about the opposite sex, and that's how I kind of fell into this whole manosphere doing these MGTOW chats. But yeah, 100%, man. I kind of wanted to find greener pastures. And you see a developing country, they obviously need some type of person with a good work ethic and some skills. Where a country like Indonesia or the Philippines, they obviously lack those type of things. But you're starting to see. I noticed a lot more Western women showing up in these impoverished nations, and they're not there per se to better themselves. They're there for just saying that they're there, being there. I'm doing a selfie with a poor kid. I'm
Yeah.
helping. Meanwhile, they're back in Starbucks, uploading their photos to their Facebook and shit. So I don't see women getting the same type of thrill out of it as guys would. The other thing is I was listening to a couple other channels. Who the fuck was I listening to? This guy called Tramp Stamp. And he was making a point that there's no place really for guys to go that have some type of that are the guys that are not thrill seekers. If you're a thrill seeker, you're kind of well regulated and confined to this sterilized environment that we have in the West. So guys will just tune out and play video games or do drugs. So I kind of feel bad for guys who are a little bit more eccentric, who look for that thrill, doing something kind of crazy and wild.
Well, sometimes they used to just tell those people to go and join the army, right?
Well, there's
I
women
mean,
in that now too, so.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, that used to be somewhat of an outlet. If you wanted to be a bit of a,
Thrill
loose
seeker.
cannon, you just
Mhm.
go send them out into the army, and then they get to, you know, practice
Shooting,
all the,
right?
shooting and whatever
Waging
else.
war, right?
Yeah.
When how did Spain conquer South America? Did everyone ever really think about that for a second? The conquistadors, they just dumped the excess amount of men. It's like, yo, go to that foreign land and figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, unfortunately, there's not many places for guys to go. They don't really have those outlets anymore. Even if you wanted to go fishing or moto bike crossing or I forgot, my friend from Australia used to do it. Cross racing, taking dirt bikes out into the prairies or whatever. You really can't do that anymore because we're so well regulated and well confined in many regards.
I did see a comment. I can't relate now because I haven't been in ages, but they were saying one of the best places if you want to go to a place that'll have a lot of guys in it would be like a pool hall, pool
Hmm.
or snooker or whatever. And maybe that is true, but I mean, I don't know if that's like you said, you're saying talking about thrill seeking, but as far as like maybe seeing if you can meet some new male friends or whatever, maybe like a pool hall could be an option, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, there's meetup groups. We have these things called meetups, but due to COVID, we're kind of
Oh
again
yeah.
being. I mean, everything's kind of blown out all these type of ideas on male camaraderie. We're kind of getting forced into these echo chambers online, and we're getting doxxed or getting our channels deleted. As I told you, my channel was deleted after almost 5,000 subscribers, and it's kind of hard starting all over again. And I'm grateful for you coming on. I really greatly appreciate that. Like I said, we was kings at one point. We were kings, but but it's only a matter of time before my secondary YouTube channel gets taken down. And it's unfortunate because it seems that, guys don't get to have that type of outlet where we can be men. I was just watching
Yeah.
the NFL playoffs with my mom and my brother. My mom hasn't watched a sport game in God only knows how many years, and she started pointing out, like, why are there women on the sidelines? Why? What are they doing there? My brother just starts laughing. He goes, welcome to the new world. And my brother was saying that, hey, look, guys would play sports to get away from women. You would join the army to get away from women, or be
Yeah.
gay to a lesser extent. So it's kind of hard for guys to get together and share some type of camaraderie on that level.
It's interesting because I've got people would say to me, because I would talk some some Red Bull stuff with some of my mates here in New Zealand, and they'll say, "Oh, you were in a bit of an echo chamber," and I don't totally check them on this, and I just think to myself, it is very ironic for people that are on Reddit or wherever else to tell me about an echo chamber. These people have an entire platform that is echo chamber. I find one little slither on YouTube, and I'm in the echo chamber.
Yeah.
It's just they
Well,
don't get it. They don't
what would
see
they
it.
be listening to exactly? Sports. I mean, the average guy seems to be more into just video games
Video
and
games,
sports balls.
memes, sort of like political memes, unfortunately. So they sometimes send me some memes, and it's some like, this is off Reddit. See, I'm not on Reddit.
No, me neither.
And it's like some like Trump memes, like, oh, something about like Mario's upset because Trump's been impeached twice, or these kind of cringe jokes. And I don't know, I just find it funny that they call they
They
don't
say
see
you're
that
in the
they're in
echo
their echo
chamber.
chamber. They don't see that they're in like a crazy echo chamber.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot of nothing in their echo chamber. Where I think at least guys like us, it's not really. It's more learning based, I want to say. It's entertainment, no doubt about it, but I tend to always learn something new listening to guys that I follow. Like, and I was like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. I always try to learn something new every day. And this one guy named Lionel Nation makes a good point. He says, is there anything you know now that you wish you didn't?
Yeah.
Like, if you just think about that. Is there something that you know that you wish you didn't know? Of course not. You're always looking to know more and more and more things, and that tends to be a bit of
Some people would
a
answer.
testament trait.
Some people would answer yes to that. They'd say, "Oh, I wish I didn't know this." I think we underestimate truly how many ciphers there are on this planet that wish they could just forget stuff, that would just plug me back in, give me some more Game of Thrones and Mandalorian. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. There's no dozers. There's none of the other characters looking to try and help out Neo. It's Neo's all by himself.
Hmm.
Neo has to fight off like 10 ciphers. And Agent Smith's always been there the whole time. But I know a lot of people, they they're okay with Biden getting back in because they want it to, like the people in the middle, they want it to die down.
Yeah.
They notice what the struggle going on. But what they don't realize is that if you just allow the machine to get its way, do you think they're going to stop? I mean, you're allowing them to get their way, and you're doing it just
It's
because
much
you
like
don't like
women's
the conversation.
hypergamy.
Huh?
It's a lot like women's hypergamy, where you guys are just not saying, okay, that's enough. Drag time story hour is a bad idea. Right? It's like that's where we kind of draw the line. You see what I'm saying? It's like, and it's so hard for men to kind of push back on these type of things because you're dealing with a woman who is quite irrational in her ways,
What?
despite her being well educated. Well, I have a PhD, and I'm like, listen, those are wonderful things, but can we agree that a man dressed up as a woman reading to 3-year-olds is probably not a really good idea?
The thing is,
And
though,
yeah.
obviously there's a problem with the ladies, but a big problem is coming from these effeminate men that didn't have fathers and stuff. Because I will tell them straight up. I'll be like, man, I'm not a fan of this drag queen story hour.
Hmm.
And they'll say, oh, I don't believe that happens. I'll tell them about all this deplatforming. And then they'll say, well, I don't believe platforming happens. And I just say to them straight up, I'm like, well, of course not, because you're not looking for it.
Right.
I mean, how are you going to know if deplatforming happens if you're on just looking at Reddit memes? I mean, so because people will say, "Oh, show me the proof," and I say to them, "I'm like, well, you're not looking for truth. Why would I show the proof to someone that's not looking? Because I could show you proof, and it won't matter. You'll just say, ah, whatever. That's not from the Washington Post. Like
Right.
they'll want proof from their sources. And do you think their sources are going to be showing proof?
Well, you
No.
just point out, well, Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, so I'm not going to listen to Washington Post. Can you give me something else?
Yeah. So, but
Yeah, I think
no,
a
but
lot of people want things to go back to normal, and they find that Biden will lead them the way to things going back to normal. And I kind of point out, I go, listen, we've been wearing these face masks for almost a year. And I remember back in March, in April, the government, CDC, and various agencies saying, oh, just 2 weeks. It'll go back to normal. It'll be okay. 2 weeks.
flatten the curve, right? Remember that was the motto, flatten the curve, and then it turned into, oh, we're going to remove it entirely. And you're thinking, what? I thought we did the 2 weeks in order to not crowd up the hospitals, but now you're saying, oh, we need to do it. We need to get rid of it entirely now. Well, you never see. What was the point of the 2 weeks flatten the curve? Well, it was just to open the door, quite frankly. It was just
Yeah,
a
how do we
test.
go from flatten the cure to flatten the curve to find the cure in a span of like 30 days?
Yeah, well, that's what happened.
Exactly what happened, 100%. And the governments in the West have done a really good job papering over the economy, where you don't really see the cracks just
I think they've
yet.
done a good job showing that they weren't the ones that created this mess. See, all they do is just fix their own mess. And they've been doing this for centuries. Like,
Well, it's so crazy because I felt for a lot of it hook, line, and sinker back in January and February, and we had some really cool expats that were living in China, giving us some data and some really good references on what was happening. And do you remember like the videos out of China of like people just dropping dead out of nowhere on the streets? None of that ever happened in America, where people just started just dropping like flies out of nowhere, walking
I
in
don't
local
believe I don't
markets.
believe anything that comes out of China because it is handpicked whatever comes out of China.
That's
Like,
true.
I mean, it's like saying, do you believe stuff that comes out of North Korea? It's like, no.
Do you believe in Santa Claus? It's weird, that I felt for a lot of those videos of those people just dropping dead. You have those videos of people in high rises, screaming into the night, howling off their balconies. I'm like, holy shit, this is some fucking Luciferian shit going on in China. And lo and behold, it obviously made its way into Western nations. And guess what? No one was dropping dead like that. It's so weird because it makes you really wonder how much is China working in the backgrounds, being the puppet master. In a lot of ways, I do think they are, and you can see what's happened in Australia. I mean, Australia was
No, yeah.
heavily influenced by
Yeah.
Chinese politics. I mean, I think most of the beef out of Australia is goes to China.
Well, a lot of our beef goes to China as well. When we had a massive month of just cheap meat because they had to unfreeze a bunch of meat that was going to get shipped out to China and had to sell it to us. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Then
that
if you think about this, we started using Zoom. Zoom is based out of China, and again TikTok
I
out
didn't
of
realize that
China.
Zoom was based out of China because obviously Zoom got a massive boost because all these businesses and stuff used it. And then, people even on TikTok, I saw, 30 Zoom, people doing Zoom call streams via TikTok as well. So, that's a double up, isn't it? Zoom on TikTok, but yeah, it's crazy.
So it makes you wonder, like, when going back to the little TikTok thing, if it's based out of China and it obviously plays on people's attention deficits and the whole vanity aspect of things on women's bodies, where guys just look at these young hot chicks, twerking and fucking flexing and
And they even say on the algorithm that it boosts, good looking people. So you're going to be more likely to see just the good looking ones, you know. So the algorithm even discriminates on the looks on TikTok, which is why I mean, fair enough, like the good looking people go to the top sort of naturally anyway. But if you have the algorithm boosting that on top of it, you're going to really see a 95-5 rule on TikTok.
Yeah, I did hear something about that how TikTok, it's not even like the 80-20 rule. It's like the 95-5
Yeah.
rule, some shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
that
really
kind of
know too
happens
much about
anyway,
it.
and then the algorithm's pushing it on top of it.
Right. And then the question is, who's pushing these algorithms? You know, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, Match, and Plenty of Fish are all owned by Match Group. It's a conglomerate. It's an international business model, and I don't think it's really in the business that they say they're in, which is getting people to meet up. I truly don't believe that. I think it's more about getting guys to pay for a subscription, pay for super likes, and pay for these apps that are supposed to be free. And from what I understand, there's a great map on what locations use these dating apps more than others, and then it breaks down even further on what's the ratio of guys using it versus women, and it's just predominantly men across the board using these dating apps.
Well, they
And
say it's like a 9-to-1 ratio. That's the ratio that they say.
yeah, that's insane. And then for the woman, it's half of them are either bots. And if you break that down even further, a lot of these women just say, "Follow me on Instagram."
Well, that's what got them in trouble in the end was the bots, because they would have these messages, right? And you click on it and be someone match review, someone message you, but it would cost money to get the premium, right? To unlock it.
Right.
And that's where they got in trouble, was that people were getting the premium because they had these matches, because they had these messages, and then it were bots.
Right.
So that's
There
what
wasn't
really
even
caught
someone
them out.
there.
Yeah, so people were like, I've got these 3 extra matches that I can't talk to. I'll buy the subscription, or I'll buy the month, or whatever. And then they find out that they were just bots anyway, and then they're not very happy, because they wouldn't have bought the subscription if they knew they were bots. But the reason why they bought the subscription, because they thought, hey, there's 3 new targets that said yes to me.
I talk to Steve Hawker quite often. He's a guest that's been coming on the last few months, and I tend to agree with him in his analysis that women are just generally not interested in dating, and they kind of pick and choose if they want to date. Where he calls it dating limbo, where I'll date this guy for a few months, 2 or 3 months, and then I'll leave him. Thank you, next, as the Andre Grande song goes, and they don't really take it. They don't take dating seriously. They don't take finding a stable relationships seriously at all until they start hitting that wall in their late 20s and early 30s.
It just goes to that cliche song, girls just want to have fun. But that's the truth. And then once the fun stops, that's when the introspection finally happens, right? Because that's the wall, right? The wall is parties starting to die down, and that's why they actually have to think now, because they used to get 100 messages, now they only get 5, and now they think, man, maybe it's time to settle down. And unfortunately, you've made it so much harder on yourself. Can you just give me like about 30 seconds? I just got to go toilet.
Yeah, sure. No worries, go. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Good chat with Casual Bachelor. This is our first time talking. Having a good time with this bloke. You fucking Kiwi. You don't know anything about council rights, Mike. I like to visit Australia. I don't know about New Zealand. Only thing I know about New Zealand is Lord of the Rings was shot there, and there's some crazy prime minister. Yeah, the whole social media thing, guys. Due to COVID, we're being nudged further and further into using these dating apps, and there seems to be no other decent apps on the horizon. I had an older gentleman tell me that if you use like Match.com or eHarmony and you pay a higher premium, you're more likely to find a woman that is more serious about getting to know you or settling down. But I haven't gone down that path just yet.
Oh, what was that?
No, no, I was just stating I had an older gentleman tell me if you use more expensive matching websites, you would have a better chance at finding someone. And I do believe that
Well, what's the
we're
other
not.
one that's kind of popular? Is it like seeking arrangements? Eh?
I think that's more like the whole sugar daddy thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And you
But
have to.
that is the higher end stuff, really. Is that?
I think that's like $50 a month or some crazy number.
Yeah,
And you have to realize that the seeking arrangement website, I think those are just straight up prostitutes,
yeah. Probably. I wouldn't be
right?
surprised. I mean, but the thing is, in New Zealand, for example, that's all legal here. You know, we've got brothels, all that stuff. So,
I
I,
did not know that. That is quite mind blowing. Did not
yeah.
know that. Thank you for
Well,
that info.
well, look at it here. America, you've got states that have marijuana legal, right?
Hmm.
And we just had a reformation here, and we couldn't even get that passed. But we've had prostitution legal here for like 8 years now. So,
Is it unionized? Like, how does that situation work?
I think they just made it so you couldn't be in residential areas.
And what do they charge?
I haven't been, but I don't
I
know.
reckon it's a lot of fucking money.
No, it's pretty. I think you can, because you've got options of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. So I think you can get like, I don't know, like maybe $60 American for like 15 minutes or so.
Right?
If you just
All
want to
right,
just
that's not
go and
bad.
bang them and clang them.
I hope they're
Huh?
not Aborigines.
Well,
They're not abos.
well, yeah, that's Australia. But I'll be honest, there was one time when I was in Christchurch where that's in the South Island. That's apparently they've got the most brothels per capita in that area, and one mate went up there and he got with the hot one, and everyone else was just trash. So it's really like you kind of have to make sure that you pick out the only half decent one that's there, sort of thing.
Well, that's the same thing. Going back to the whole Southeast Asia aspect, you'll have like a bunch of single moms. Like there'll be like 19 single moms and just one hot 19-year-old who's off the boat, doesn't
Yeah,
speak a lick of English, doesn't know what she's doing. She's a dead fish in bed. She's you're like dragging her out of your fucking apartment, like at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon the following day. So it's kind of funny because like when I went to Thailand, I was like walking around Pattaya and I'm like, these women are not attractive, man. I'm not impressed with the stock. You hear all these older fucking guys saying how glorious it is, and they get lost in the sauce. And I think a lot of older guys get like these kind of like these old man beer goggles on, where just anything that's younger than them is automatically hot.
yeah.
That's definitely something I learned with boomers, traveling abroad looking for some snatch.
Well, there's plenty of, I saw that in the Philippines all the time, man. The older guy with one on each arm, one 19-year-old on each arm sort of thing. So, you know,
Yeah, I tried telling a lot of these guys that were looking to move abroad and travel abroad that there's not so much greener pastures as one would like to think. And again, you're in a foreign country, so you're not really having that social safety net, and you're not really around your friends or family. And the longer you stay there, the longer you stay in that country, the country you come from is moving on without you. So it's kind of like a time capsule kind of a thing. So like for me, it was like from 2012 to 2017, living in Cambodia. And then when I came back to the United States, the biggest uh, thing that I had noticed that had changed is the way of communicating with the opposite sex, where now it's all in the realm of social media.
yeah.
2009, 2010, you could still go out, meet someone, text them, but they would never really redirect you to Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So now it seems to be
Well, that used to be a thing, was just mobile texting, right? I
Yeah.
don't really know how big of a thing that is nowadays because people just use their different social medias to talk to each other. I mean, I don't even put credit on my cell phone anymore because I have Wi-Fi at work, Wi-Fi at my friend's house, Wi-Fi at home. So
Mhm.
I don't even bother putting money on my account because I can just I can just communicate via Wi-Fi.
Right. You use like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and things like that. Viber. I like Viber a lot.
Yeah. So I even save money on my phone bill because I don't have a phone bill anymore. So
Well, the it just seems that like well, not that it seems, it's knowing again that women just don't really put their best foot forward on finding a suitable match for themselves. It seems that they expect that the guy, Prince Charming, the Chad, is literally gonna fall into their bedroom. like
well,
I used, yeah.
not only that, they expect Chad to wait around until 30. That's what they expect. They expect the Prince Charming to wait around and get the leftovers. So they that's why they get kind of pissed off later on in life because what they were told by their mothers, their sisters, their aunts is all bullcrap. It's
Yes.
all just have your cake and eat it too. And
It's Disney. They were promised Disney.
yeah, well, yeah.
My father blames Disney for a lot of the things when it comes to women's
Well, the
narcissism and
well the
demand.
princess mentality does come from Disney, plain and simple, right?
Yeah, you're right. Good point, man. I never thought of it like that. I always blamed it on England. No offense. A lot of the whole Sir Lancelot Shakespeare fucking bullshit.
But that's just like the monarchy and stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, they're obsessed with like my first girlfriend was obsessed with Marie Antoinette. I'm like, that's a really bad idol. That is not a good person to really be obsessed over and start to research historically as someone that was cool. She was not a good person. She got her head chopped off for fuck's sakes. Like the whole idea of Marie Antoinette is that the whole country is in a state of fucking anarchy and she's being a thought.
Yeah.
Right, right, and you're 100% correct with your analysis regarding the whole Disney. I call it perpetual Disney dreams, infinite summer, where she's got to live a permanent vacation lifestyle, and a lot of these cities and these downtown neighborhoods foster those ideas. So if you look at, I don't know what the situation's like in New Zealand, but it kind of ties in with the whole Sustainable Development Agenda 21, where the downtown is like a permanent vacation. You can have brunch Saturday and Sunday, go out drinking, and then go live above that location that you love to go and frequent at for drinks and partying. So,
Yeah.
and that's really not geared for single guys.
No.
A lot of these locations, the cities, are geared for sexy young women and gay dudes for that matter. In New York City, for example, it was always really cool to go out drinking and partying. And then maybe the last 10 years or so, you started seeing this rise of the LGBT culture centers, these little districts where now you see pride flags everywhere and all the young women flock to these locations because gay guys like to party, 24
Yeah.
hours where, someone like me, well, I got to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like me dropping $150 on drinks and overpriced meal where I'm still going to be hungry a few hours later. That's really not appealing every single fucking weekend because I got to save my money for down payment on a house, new car, things like that, unplanned expenses. Again, women don't have to worry about those things because there's a permanent safety net, either that's the sugar daddy or her own parents.
Yeah. But even that has an expiry though. You think the sugar daddy's going to be paying for meals for 40-year-olds? I mean,
Well,
maybe if you're lucky.
here's the thing with sugar daddies, and I learned a little bit about this while living in Southeast Asia. If a guy is 50, 55, 60, and he's gone through the ringer with women, divorced, has kids, kids may hate him because the child's mother has talked mad shit about the father. And now they're banging this 20-something year old who only cares about that dude's money. that guy is going to treat them like a whore. They're not really going to care about that 20-something-year-old because in the back of his mind, he's gone through the ringer and he's looking at this young girl as like, wow, you're just a monster, really. You could give a flying fuck about my feelings, what it is I want.
Yeah.
Here's your money and, beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
Right. I mean, you have to realize that the boomers still were raised in a manner that was much more traditional. So here they are in their 50s, 60s, even 70s for that matter, banging girls that are in their 20s, which was alien to them when they were our age. And they're looking at these young women as just really just prostitutes, and that's really what they are. There's no such thing as soft prostitution. A lot of websites promote this idea. Cosmopolitan magazine and movies, not social media, but movies and TV series promote this idea of this Audrey Hepburn, Tiffany, Breakfast at Tiffany's, make believe. Like it's not real. Like that guy that you're sleeping with does not respect you because of what you're doing for a living, which is why it's frowned upon in like 95% of the globe.
Yeah.
So we kind of forget men's needs and wants. We
Well,
forget that
it's
men.
not that we forget, it's that no one gives a crap. No
No one
one's
gives a
asking. No one wants to ask because
Right.
we are just we're not the main actor or actress. We're just a side character, but we're expected to pay for everything. So I don't know. That's why you just see guys are able to weigh up, the risk and reward, the benefit, the cost benefit analysis, which is what people have talked about, and they just say, why am I getting involved in this? That's the big question. Like, why? What am I truly getting out of this? Because the marriage vows don't mean anything. Like literally,
Mm-hmm.
people are making and breaking them like nobody's business. They're not even keeping the marriage vows that they're supposed to. I mean, when I was younger, I had this naive thought when I used to see married men because I was brought up, Christian in the church and stuff. So I'd hear about married men, committing adultery, and my young naive mind would think, man, why are they doing that? They could just hook up with their wife at home.
Right.
Why would they go outside their marriage? They've got, a piece of meat at home. But now you realize how many of these marriages are in dead bedrooms, are in, haven't
Well, she's
built maybe
fat.
once a
She's
month.
disgusting. I mean, women tend to let themselves go after marriage.
I
That
know, but
that yeah.
even then, if it's on the table, a guy will still probably take it. But I mean, that does play into effect if they've really, let go and are disgusting. But a lot of the times, it's that Tom Likas phrase where it's like, if you keep coming home every day and there's no food in the fridge, are you going to be surprised when he goes to McDonald's or Burger King? Now, the food in the fridge is an analogy for, getting some bedroom action, but
Mhm.
do you blame someone if you constantly come home and the fridge is empty that they're going to just go to Burger King one night? They're just going to go to McDonald's one night.
Well, that brings up something. Whereas if they do legalize prostitution, would that, in effect, strong arm women into taking better care of themselves? What do you reckon?
Whoa. Sometimes I think that would play a part into it because it would potentially play into their competition anxiety because
Yes.
that's why they let themselves go when you move in, even before you get married. If you cohabitate, you're probably going to get less action because they know where you're coming home every night.
Hmm.
They're not even thinking that you're going to go somewhere else. Like if you're just dating and living in separate houses, they don't know if you're always sleeping in your house every night. They don't know if someone else is coming over to your place and whatnot. But so yeah,
Yeah,
potentially,
they have an eye on you at all times.
yeah.
Yeah, I've floated that idea in the past, where if they did in fact legalize prostitution in the United States, would that kind of rebalance the equilibrium that we're living through, where it's just totally all in favor towards women? And I would tend to believe that would, and more of a reason why they will not legalize prostitution. They rather keep the cards to themselves. They rather keep this pent up anxiety, keeping men off balance and having them be somewhat of a fucking wage slave.
Wow, that's always the plan, is to make us wage slaves.
or we're gonna wind up dying in a civil war, whichever comes first.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the other thing. I just don't see what Western women don't really see how bad the situation is economically, politically. They tend to block a lot of the negative aspects of life out. Like again, they think they're immortal, they're omnipresent, omnipotent. They become little goddesses unto themselves. It's a and it seems that there's this tantalizing cuckoldry where my pussy that, my pussy this, my pussy that, buy me something good. I'm a goddess. I'm gonna meet to you though if you come closer to me or try speaking to me. So there's like this kind of this schizophrenia that we see because of mostly because of social media and mass media with music and television, where women are portraying themselves in this hypersexual manner, that they're screwing this guy, screwing that guy. Yeah, my genitalia is the best, but at the same time, you can look, but you better not touch. So it kind of like a lot of these young guys
well, it's all
don't
just
really know.
attention, right? They're just trying to garner as much attention as they want, and if they get Chad's attention, then he can get the full kahuna. But I don't know. They really just like the attention, and sometimes, and you see it on YouTube too. Sometimes they even like negative attention. They don't put out these hit pieces because they know it's gonna garner positive attention. They'll take any kind of attention because now they can become the victim and then make another video on the bad comments. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, there's a bumper sticker I've been seeing around my neighborhood is my dog licked me and I liked it.
Oh. Well, you saw that in England on a televised show. They married a woman to their dog.
Yes, I did see that. You're right, man. I forgot all
That
about
is
that.
that is crazy because if you're willing to get married to your dog, we don't even need to go down that road. you know,
Well,
because now you've even got
I'm in the middle
now
of
you can
writing.
even say, well, we're married.
Well,
Someone comes in and you're doing something crazy. Oh, well, we got married first.
I had the dog's consent. You never forget. Bestiality means never to having say you're sorry. And I do think they're gonna try legalizing that. I think it's legalized in a handful of fucking despotic shithole countries. In
Like I heard it
Cambodia,
was
yeah,
legalized in Canada, but I have to check.
Denmark. I think Denmark it's legalized. In Cambodia, it's legal, and through the grapevine from the expat community is that they were on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. There was this tribe of Western women that lived in this gated compound where they had all these assorted animals, and they screwed them.
So I just checked that up now, and it said fact check back in 2018. No, Canada did not legalize it, and then it says in 2019 all acts with animals now illegal. So I don't even know what was. It's. I've heard it's legal. Now they're trying to say it's not, but
Well, they're definitely going to legalize it, given the direction we're going in. A funny thing is that as I was about to tell you is that I'm in the middle of writing an article about women obsession with dogs, and once in a while I would obviously run through the Google search certain keywords to try to get some information, some references, and some statistics on women engaging in zoophilia. And now, if you type in the word bestiality to Google, bestiality porn comes up, which was not something that would pop up a year ago. So it's if Google's now changing its algorithms around where if you were to type in the word bestiality and that pornography were to pop up, which is illegal, mind you, uh, we're obviously going down some type of slippery slope that we're never going to pull ourselves out of.
yeah, it does talk about that about the zoophilic um, stuff. But It looks like there's like maybe 3 states in America where it might be legal.
Yeah, probably like Alabama. Some horrible. No, probably Alabama. You probably get stoned to death.
I'm not sure which states it is. It's got like these 2 square states. So you've got California, then a state, and then you've got a blue state above it, and then a blue state below it.
Yeah, it'd be like Oregon, Washington, and Nevada,
Maybe it's
Utah.
Nevada.
Oh,
I'm
again, that's where Vegas is.
I don't think it'll be Utah. Utah, but I don't know. I hope
Right.
not. But
What do you, now in New Zealand? Do you see a lot of women with dogs? Is that a popular trend that you have noticed?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
Well, that's
do.
just that they're replacing children with dogs, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Uh, Side note, North Korea's banned women from owning dogs, and so has Iran.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, they call it vulgar Western culture. Iran calls it that, and the Kim Jong Un says it's decadent Western bourgeois, uh, bullshit or whatever, something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but those countries have really reined it in because I would safely assume that they see some type of bad societal decay where women are projecting onto doggies as if they're babies and children.
Yeah.
And mind you, that the dog has now replaced the husband as, the guard of the house. He's protecting me. And I don't even waste my time with women with dogs, especially more than ones that have more, especially women that have more than one dog. I was speaking with one girl I found really attractive, and I got her number, and I started texting her and shit, and she just came off as very aloof and cold. And off the cuff, I asked her, "Do you have dogs?" And she sends me a photo of these two monster pit bulls. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, which one's the husband and which one's your son? Did you christen your son yet? And she obviously went berserk on me. But prior to me even asking her if she had dogs or not, she right off the bat, she's going into defensive mode and saying that, listen, I've been through a lot in my life, okay? I'm like, you're
Who hasn't?
28.
Who hasn't? I hear people say that. I've been
Thank
through a
you.
lot. I've had a
I've
rough
been
day,
through
and
a
it's like,
lot.
welcome to planet Earth. I mean, do you think you're special? I mean, everyone deals with crap, you know?
I know. It's hilarious. Like, what could you have gone through where you're just so traumatized that you're just automatically being super defensive on a guy who finds you attractive? You
Yeah.
know, it's funny. You want to talk being traumatized? My Cambodian ex-girlfriend watched her uncle get blown up by a landmine in front of her face. Can we talk about traumatized? Yet she's not going around telling people I'm traumatized. I've been through a lot. Women of Asia seem to be much more stoic when it comes to traumatizing events, and they tend to realize, hey, that's part of life. It. And I don't want to go on a tangent here, but it seems that a lot of people in Western countries forgot what an external threat was. They don't really understand what being traumatized really truly means. The whole thing is, oh, I've been raped. Okay, well, slow down. Let's slow down. What do you mean by raped? Did he look at you for more than 15 seconds, which is against the law in Australia? Is that what you consider rape? Or were you, punched in the face, knocked out cold, and a bunch of guys took advantage of you because of, some unfortunate event? So, not to play down rapes or anything like that, but it seems that we've gotten so far away from what the true definitions on what being a victim, being traumatized, PTSD, which is another
Yeah.
word that gets thrown around quite often. PTSD is more about someone that served in combat and watched his boys get blown up. That's PTSD. You being in a car crash when you were 19 because you were smoking a blunt and your buddy was drunk driving around at 3 a.m., that's not really trauma. That's called being young and stupid. So,
Yeah. Well, it's just the whole thing is I'm a victim. I'm not accountable for my
yeah,
problems.
yeah.
You know, oh, I got really drunk, and it's like, well, did someone funnel that alcohol down your throat, or did you voluntarily drink it? I mean, people, you know, it sounds cliche, but actions have consequences. That's as simple as you can put it. I mean, if you want to play those games, if you want to drink 12 beers, and you're not, and you're 5'2", 110 pounds, you're going to get pretty wasted, and
Yep.
you know.
You're going to do things you're going to regret, and you can't blame that on someone else.
These were those states, so are these states in that area that I was talking about? Because Nevada was one of them, but it says like Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, maybe it was New Mexico,
Yeah, New Mexico.
Ohio, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. And then it did talk about in Alabama, they tried to outlaw it, and then the governor vetoed it in 2014. But yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, dude, that's hilarious. I didn't know it was that it was legal. It was legal in some of those states.
Well,
Alabama, West
sometimes in
Virginia.
these countries that, because it talks about it in Germany, how they've got these bestiality brothels.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah.
Hey, let me ask you: is gambling legal in New Zealand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know it's legal in Australia. It's not that legal here in the U.S. just yet,
You
and
have
they're
to
pushing that.
be you have to be 20 though, 20 or 21. So some, like in New Zealand, for example, you can drink alcohol at 18. So a lot of people think that, oh, I'm 18, I can go to the casino, but I think you have to be 20 to gamble.
Oh, then it's okay then that they're 20. That's consent. They can flush their mom's and dad's debit card down the toilet going to a casino at 20.
Well, you have to be 21 to drink alcohol in America, right? Yeah, you only have to
Yep.
be 18 here. Yeah, so it's 18 to drink alcohol and then 20 to go gambling,
Well,
which is kind of weird, but whatever.
yeah, but they're definitely trying to legalize all vices across the globe, like
Well,
bestiality, gambling, things like that.
we sometimes have people, because I think in Australia it's 18 to gamble. So we sometimes have people come over from Australia and they get turned down when we check their IDs. I mean, I don't do that anymore. I used to work at a casino, and yeah, they would be surprised sometimes because in Australia, I think you can gamble at
Yeah, I think
18.
it's in like bars and shit, from what I understand. Like you can go to a local pub and there'll be like a gambling
Yeah, there's
machine in
there's
the
uh
corner.
there's poker machines. So if, um, even though to go to the casino you have to be 20, you could probably, I think you can use the pokies at 18. So you can't
Wow.
go and do like blackjack and stuff at 18.
Yeah, that's a serious vice. Considering how many people are unemployed right now and desperate, I do see that the government's going to be like, oh, since you're down on your luck, why don't we open a casino in your hometown and really flush all your money down the toilet?
Well, some people talk about in America that didn't help the Native Americans, all this casino stuff, but I don't,
Nah, it didn't.
like, on paper it sounds good, but obviously it's not necessarily got the best outcome for that community, does it?
No,
Because
because they're already poor. Yeah,
yeah,
it's fucking
and,
crazy.
and and anyone that knows anything about the casino, the house always wins.
It's like
Always.
Thailand. You may be winning for a little while, getting lucky, banging fucking 20-year-olds and having a really sweet fucking one bedroom in a high rise in Bangkok. But if you stay there long enough, the house will always win.
Yeah.
You know. Hey, well, listen, I'll let you go because it's almost 2 hours. Quick question. Now, I'm just curious about New Zealand. What are like some fun things to do in New Zealand? Do you guys go kite surfing? Is surfing really that popular? You guys go? What's a fun activity to do where you live?
I mean, it all just depends on the person. That's not really my thing, but you can do the surfing, you can go do skiing and snowboarding and stuff. Um,
I know tourism went through the roof because of that stupid movie, Lord of the Rings.
yeah, yeah. People see. I haven't even gone to that place. I think it's in Morrinsville, like Hobbitville. So yeah, so there's like nice scenery, nice hikes and beaches and stuff like that. Um, and then if you want to do the whole like theme park stuff, that's probably more in Australia. I mean, we do have a theme park here in New Zealand, but Australia has like 5 or 6 on that Gold Coast area. But
Well, your country looks far more fascinating and more interesting to visit than Australia. Most Australians tell me I became super fascinated with Australia when I met so many people from Oz, and I was like, oh my God, I want to see Perth. I want to see the fucking Northern Territories. And they're looking at me like I'm a deer in headlights. He goes, why would you want to go there? Do you like Kansas? I'm like, no, I don't like Kansas. Then why would you want to visit Australia, man?
well, I
He
suppose
said,
like Gold Coast is nice. That's got the beaches and everything else. But Perth is like a place where you go to work. You know, that's where you
right.
work in the mines and stuff. So a lot of people will say that they save a lot of money in Perth because they work 6 days a week and then they have the one day off on Sunday and they don't really go anywhere because it's all blooming a mining. Well, probably where they are specifically, it's just like a mining place.
Cool story to tell you real quick. So, one reason why the Japanese never invaded Australia, they sent like a recon force of like 20 guys and they landed in the Northern Territory. They obviously, piggybacked off of like Java and landed in the Northern Territories. And they were there for like a month. And then they reported back to Japan and they told like the higher ups in the government and said, "We are definitely not invading Australia. This place is horrible.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out another way of invading Australia because us taking a ground war into the Northern Territories and like Darwin and those places is just definitely not happening, man."
Well, when you talk about Darwin and China and stuff, well, guess who bought the harbor there, right? Guess who owns the harbor there for 100 years?
Ooh, lucky China.
So they're
Yeah,
definitely in the pockets of Australia. I'll tell you that right now.
yeah, for sure. There's some really cool books. I'll forward you some cool shit when we hang up on the call. Some cool reads. I don't know if you're into reading or whatever, but I'll definitely send you some links to some interesting books about China and their slow subversion of Australia. It's so weird because when I saw those lockdowns, like in Brisbane or Melbourne, I forgot which one it was, where they were like going to
Yeah, I think
people's
it was Melbourne.
houses.
Yeah,
Yeah, in Melbourne, and like that is some Chinese shit going on down there, man.
yeah, man.
You
They're
know?
the sort of population that the government says jump, and they say how high. You know, they were, and eventually they started to find out the hard way. You know, you see these pictures of these police officers tackling them and stuff, but
Yeah,
it's hard for me knowing how demographics vote. It's hard for me to really have much sympathy because I know exactly, on average, maybe not her particularly, what she particularly voted, but I know that on average they voted for this.
yeah.
They they voted for this very liberal government. So, like you say, you reap what you sow to some degree.
Well, I followed the Tony Abbott. Uh, I found Tony Abbott to be quite fascinating because he was the shortest lived premier of Australia, and he really pushed back on a lot of these globalization efforts. Like he cracked down on immigration. He revamped Christmas Island. I think he came up with this whole thing called Border Force. If I stand corrected, where he basically created this whole arm of the military that really border patrol, border force, one or the other, where they really just crack down on illegal immigration. And when the whole climate change agenda, the Paris Climate Change Accord, the name slips my mind, he pulled Australia out of it. And as soon as he pulled Australia out of it, this avalanche on how horrible Tony Abbott is, and he's a demagogue,
Yeah,
he's a xenophobe, he's a Nazi, and
yeah,
they pretty much threw his ass out. And then he became like mayor of his like local town, and this NGO from America basically came into the town and just started bullying him in the media, and he had to step down from his role as mayor for his local community. So, and he was quite outspoken about how evil these NGOs and how evil the media is, and you really shouldn't be listening to any of these people. So.
yeah. Well, a lot of at the end of the day, people are like, "Hey, give me another season of Mandalorian," right?
I want to go on the Disney ride one more time. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
want to go on Space Mountain again.
yeah. Just to sum up and circling back just for a moment, I do truly believe that when you put forth something that is negative, people recoil in horror. Like, don't tell me scary things,
Yeah,
even though you have, statistics, you have the facts, you have references. Whoever it is you may tell, people just don't want to hear bad news.
yeah,
And I truly believe that's where we're at now, is that, there's nothing but bad news, and people are kind of regressing mentally, where they become lost with ideas like Mandalorian and Disney and video games for guys. And I think long term that's gonna really kind of come to a head.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, I still kind of enjoy video games a bit, but maybe not as much as I used to. I used to be able to play like an open world for, 30, 40 hours. Now if it's a really good game, I might finish it, but now I might only play like 5 or 10 hours of some games. I don't have that same, like, oh, I need to, but I still enjoy it. I still enjoy playing the odd games and stuff, but I don't have that same enjoyment that I may have once had, once upon a time.
Yeah, I stopped playing video games like 10 years ago. I was playing Call of Duty, like smoking pot and shit, and I was like, man, I'm not really getting much out of this, and it's not really better benefiting
Like, it can
myself.
be fun for a while, right? But
Yeah.
eventually you kind of,
Do you have
almost it's
Steam?
good to get it out of your system to some degree of just like, okay, I'm going to do this, play whatever hours, and eventually you say, you know what, maybe it's something, maybe I'll do something else now. But
I have Steam on my PC, and there's some pretty cool games out there. They got this U-boat simulator, and they have like submarine simulators. I was thinking about downloading it, and it's been on the back burner, and I've been toying with the idea of playing video games again, because fuck, man, all this crazy shit that's going on, you kind of just want to tune out and play some fucking mind-numbing games. And I totally get that. And like I said, I'm thinking about playing some games going forward for the new year, but especially if COVID doesn't end. I mean, well, this
well, that's the
weekend I
other
was
thing
like,
too,
oh, I
like
really
all
want to
this
go out and have a
lockdowns.
good time, but there's a 9 p.m. curfew in the
Yeah.
city I'm living in. So if I were to go out at 7 o'clock, I can only, well, how many drinks am I going to have? Is that enough time to really meet someone? And then you factor in the whole people wearing mask thing. It's so alien. It's just like, what for? What purpose is this? You know? What
Yeah.
what am I getting out of going out to a bar and blowing money on drinks and shit?
And as far as like meeting someone while you're wearing masks, you could, I don't know, it's just, you don't truly know what they look like until they potentially take the mask down, and you might have spent 20 minutes trying to make it happen, and then you see the full product and you're like, ooh,
Oh
no.
yeah. Well, you're missing how, I mean, you're missing more than half the person's face. You don't see their nose, you don't see their mouth, you don't see their cheeks, you only see in their eyes. And one of my buddy goes, now that everyone's wearing masks, everyone has beautiful eyes. Have you noticed how beautiful everyone's eyes are? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Take the
What's
mask
what's
off.
funny is that when you go circle back to the start of this conversation about all the looks maxing stuff, get the chin surgery and all that. Well, what's the difference now with the mask on? You
Yeah,
know?
right. You spend $30,000 on a nose job and no one can see your fucking nose.
Yeah. So,
Right. Hey, listen, man, I'll let you go. I really appreciate you coming on. Casual Bachelor. Let's definitely keep in touch. I do plan on having you on with Sandman in the near future, so we'll chat a little bit. And again, I really, really want to thank you for coming on. That was a lot of fun.
that's all good.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, all right? Stay in
All right.
touch.
All right.
Cheers.
Sweet. So.
Bye-bye, man.